Hey guys, welcome to a new RS3 video. Today is going to be quite a long one, a bit more longer than previous, and it's actually going to be like a countdown. So these kind of videos I've always been kind of interested in trying to make. So yeah, this one's going to be on the 26 skills in the game, and I'm going to rank them from most useless to most useful at the end of the video, in terms of usefulness. So I'm going to rank them from 26 down to 1 in what in my opinion has the most use in the game, and not just for the individual player but for the game as a whole. But I'm going to take individual play into account. I'm going to take money making into account with some of these as well. So yeah, I know I'm going to give pros and cons. So yeah, stay tuned and let's get the countdown started. So coming in at number 26 as the most useless skill in the entire game, I'm pretty sure some of you probably saw this coming. It is fire making. So the uses of fire making, the pros, so to speak, are that putting down a fire and feeding fire with some logs gives you a HP buff, increases your maximum health by a bit. At level 92, I believe it increases my HP by 300, I think. So it's not too bad. And you can also put a fire to train cooking anywhere in the entire game. Well, there are some places which you can't. But that is it. That is the only uses of it. The cons are, it's useless everywhere else, and it is a skill which is 100% lost because you are basically burning materials, getting nothing out of it. So it's 100% loss. You make no profit. Any money you put into it, you lose. So next, at number 25, we have thieving. Now, I know thieving is quite a popular skill with some people. You might be like, what? How can it be so low down? Remember, this is skills that are useful to the game. Thieving is next to useless for the game. Like, it's probably fun for some people to do, especially with pyramid plunder. So thieving can net you a decent profit. I'm gonna say that now. It can net you a decent profit, and it can be rather fast to train if you do pyramid plunder. But as for being useful to the game, yeah, you get random items. You get like money off the steals. But honestly, you get that through combat, and through combat you get a heck of a lot more in terms of value and in terms of useful items. And thieving has absolutely no other use. So, afraid to say, it's number 25. Okay, so at this point in the list, I encountered a bit of a problem because I could only find 2 virtually useless skills, and from here on in, there are like all the skills have decent amount of uses. So yeah, okay, here we go. We're gonna go. Number 24 is fletching. Now, this might be an unpopular position, being this third from bottom. People like fletching. I like it myself. The skill cape's amazing, but the skill cape's not going to actually do much for you except for cosmetics. So what can you use fletching for? You can use fletching to make bows. Bows like youth bows or elder bows, which very few people use for a very short amount of time. And when they finish using them, they often sell them again. So I mean, okay, fair enough, you're making the bows. You can also make ammo, which brings me on to the cons. Before I go on to the last pro, the cons are that Ava's accumulator and items like that save on ammo, which makes ammo lasts a very long time with ranged, and it makes it really kind of, you don't need to recharge on ammo that often. So the demand for arrows really is not as great as it could be in the game. And most of the fletching stuff that you find can be found as drops anyway, or even worse, you can find better stuff from drops, like the dark bow, for instance. Now, the redeeming feature about fletching is one item in particular, and that's the Ascension crossbows. Without thieving, we wouldn't have them. We wouldn't have the Ascension bolts either, obviously. So I have to put number 24 because it's, as I said, it's got some use. It's definitely got some use, but not that much because of how the game has progressed and how drops are probably the main source of kind of items and gold coming into the game. So yeah. At number 23 we have smithing. Now this was pretty difficult for me to settle with putting smithing as number 23. The smithing has a very important pro in that smelting bars is very useful for a number of other skills, but quite a lot of those skills are low down on the list. Now, you can make armor and weapons with smithing, and the higher your smithing cost, the lower the repair costs are to repair items in your player-owned house. But as for the armor and weapons, it's just completely out of proportion. You need level 85 smithing to craft runite stuff, and runite stuff is like level 50, I think, at the moment, and that's a really big gap. Plus it's extremely expensive to actually train smithing. I mean, Artisan's Workshop is amazing and all, but my god, it costs so much. But I mean, in addition to this, a lot of rune items and things like that, and even better items, can be found with drops again. Just like with fletching, a lot of the stuff are drops. But smithing is still useful. It's still useful for smelting your bars. Like, you can even get the bars off bosses as well, but yeah, let's ignore that. Smelting can be important for the bars, the gold bars, which are pretty important in the game, and of course reducing the cost on degradable items to repair. That's pretty good. But then again, that also ties into number 22, which is construction. Now, obviously there are cosmetic and aesthetic bonuses for construction, which is really good. Like, really good for some players. But as for benefiting the game as a whole, construction only has two uses. One of them is, as before mentioned, you are able to repair degradable armor in your player-owned house. You can store stuff in your player-owned house. However, the biggest benefit, and a lot of people will be like, how are you putting construction at number 22? Gilded altars. Now, gilded altars are virtually the only way to train prayer properly, like in any decent amount of time. However, one use, I mean, I put prayer very high on this list, as you'll find out, but I still think just one use or two uses from a skill is just really bad, considering it's so expensive to train, and it has no applications anywhere else. I mean, it's there as a tool to train prayer, and that's it. But then again, whilst training prayer, you gain benefits. But construction is basically you get to a gilded altar and then you train prayer, and that's it. Now, some people might say, well, you've got teleports. Lodestone sort of killed all benefits regarding teleports, like construction, and to some extent mage, although mage has a lot more teleports, particularly in the ancient spellbook. Now at number 21 we have woodcutting. Now woodcutting, I have put this low down because although it provides materials for 3 different skills: construction, fletching and fire making, or let's just call fire making wood burning, or money burning, or material burning, wood cutting provides materials for those 3, but those 3 skills are very low on this list anyway. So I mean, wood cutting's like higher than all 3, and I find I can't really put wood cutting any higher than some of the other skills above it. Having said that, woodcutting is a good money making skill as well, so it's definitely worth doing. And I mean, it is rather important. I mean, imagine having this game with no woodcutting. It would seem a bit weird, and although I don't think it would have that huge an impact as people might think, despite it being a really core skill. And number 20 we have mining. Now, I found it difficult to actually find any disadvantages to mining. Honestly, mining, like, it has a lot of pros. You can mine ores, you can mine coal. Like, coal is really important for the mining and smithing skill. You can also find quite a lot of gems through it, but then again, you can find gems and ores through combat anyway. In addition, mining is a money making skill. If you mine the right things like runite or addy, or like even if you mine coal at a high level. The only con I could actually find is that it's really inflexible. Those pros really only affect smithing and maybe crafting with the gems, which would then impact fletching, but fletching is not as useful. So I mean, I could not put mining any higher because of the fact that it's just really focused in one area, whereas some skills like focus in more other areas. Like some skills even focus on improving other skills, which I feel mining doesn't really do properly. The 19th most useful skill in the game is something people will probably expect to be higher, and it's one of the most popular skills in the game by far, and that is Hunter. Now, it's slowed down because in terms of impact on the game, it's not that useful, honestly. It's fun to train, and one of the benefits is it makes absolute bank. It makes huge amounts of cash. But what it provides the game are a small amount of items for summoning and herblore, as well as quite a lot of kind of benefits for range, like particularly salamanders. But despite that, the impact that Hunter has on these 3 skills is really, really minimal, and as such, I really can't put it higher, I'm afraid, guys. Sorry. At number 8, we have crafting. Now, the use of crafting are that you can create jewellery, you can make ranged armour and magic gear, and I think honestly, in my opinion, the best use for crafting is urns. You can create urns which can be, if you've got them in your inventory, whilst you do mining, fishing, and some other skills I can't remember. Eventually they'll fill up, and you can teleport them away for extra XP. So that's good. The cons for crafting are honestly that there are only like a few items that crafting makes that are actually used at all. I mean, the raw dragon hide, like the dragon hide armor, are decently used, and the reason why crafting is actually so much higher than smithing, despite them both having the problem of, okay, you need a ridiculously high level to craft this mid-level or low-level armor. The reason why crafting is much higher is that it can create level 60 and 65 gear for ranged. It can make it can even make the Armadillo Battle Staff for mage, which is the best weapon in the game for mage that does not degrade. But there's really not much room to put crafting any higher. So another okay, I'm leaving that in there for an outtake. At number 17, we have rune crafting, and the benefits, obviously, rune crafting you would imagine is like the core skill in this game, because, well, the game's named after it, guys. Obviously the benefits are you can craft runes, and honestly the biggest pros are that you can craft complex runes like blood runes, cosmic runes and death runes, and in addition to that, the nature runes. Now I'm going to say that a lot of the runes are basically off drops, and I feel the demand for runes are kind of outweighed by what you can get from drops, honestly. When you've got things like the Armadillo Battle Staff, which doesn't need air runes, and you can just cast air spells constantly, I sort of feel rune crafting has lost its necessity. However, the big glaring thing is nature runes, and I feel honestly the supply from things like drops of nature runes is vastly inferior to the demand of nature runes, because they're used in superheat, they're used in superheat, high alchemy, things like that. But I think there are a lot of good mechanisms for training rune crafting as well. The Wicked Hood and the Abyss have really helped out, but there's I honestly feel Runespan has made rune crafting so much less of an important skill now, because like people are going to train it through rune crafting. They're going to 100% AFK the skill. They're going to do it through Runespan rather. And I feel this in turn like starts influencing things in the game, which stop runes being as important. At number 16 we have divination. Now the main pro for divination are divine locations. This is what everyone will know about divination for. The other stuff like transmutes, probably less people might know about that. Transmutes are good, things like that, but divine locations is the big thing, and that's basically the divination skill for people at the moment. Now obviously you can train a whole plethora of skills and at really high XP rates through divination and through divine locations, which is why it's as high as number 16. But this is also a con, because it's as low as number 16 because of daily limits, and those daily limits are pretty harsh on some locations. I mean, divination can make absolute bank for those that place the divine locations if they place the right ones, but it's a daily thing. It's daily, and there's really only a limited amount of use that you can get from divination as a result of that, compared to, say, dungeoneering. Because dungeoneering, you can do as many of them as you want. You're not time limited, whereas divination can only do them once a day. At number 15 we have farming. Now, I know what you guys are going to say. Farming is extremely useful because herb lore is extremely useful. Now you're probably scared I'm going to put herb lore really low down. Don't worry guys, herb lore is extremely high on this list. You'll see just how high I've put it. The reason why farming is only at 15 is because the benefit it gives to herb lore, I feel, is about equal as what drops give to herb lore. Because, and I'm saying herb lore, it's herb lore. So, I feel that the split of herbs you get from farming and that you get from combat is sort of split 50-50, like through the entire game community. And I feel this is why farming struggles in usefulness, because like the herb lore skill would still work based on just drops. Having said that, farming is actually a good source of training your wood cutting with certain trees. It's really easy to level. It's completely AFK. It can be expensive if you're doing trees. It can be very, very good money if you do herbs. I mean, it produces a lot of herbs if you do it right. But I still think that because of combat, herb lore gains an equal amount from both farming and combat. But combat has uses elsewhere in the game, whereas farming doesn't have that many uses in other skills aside from herb lore. Coming in at number 14 is everyone's least favourite skill to train in the game. That's right, agility. Now, let me explain the reason why I've put agility at number 14. And I'm not saying it's useful in any way. In fact, it's almost in the first half of usefulness. Agility, the big pros. It gives you run energy. It makes you run longer, and it gives you access to some of the best shortcuts in the game. And these shortcuts save so much time when doing combat. Having said that, I cannot put agility above things like strength or attack or ranged or any combat skill, because without those combat skills, like you'd use a shortcut, then what? It would be no point in using the shortcut. But agility can also make money. I'm gonna point that out there, and people might be asking why. God Wars Dungeon. Level 70 agility is required to get into the Saradomin Quarter, and everyone knows the Saradomin Quarter is where the big money is made, aside from Nex, because all the items there are just ridiculous in cost, except the Saradomin Sword, which is meh. Yeah, you honestly don't even have to pay for that almost. People could give it to you and only 90k. Now, number 13 is really difficult to talk about, because how can I actually explain how I put it here? Number 13 is strength. Basically, its only role is that it increases the amount of melee damage. It increases your maximum hit. It is also required for some melee abilities. That's all of its use, except for obviously maybe things like getting into Bandos in God Wars Dungeon, which I have taken into account in putting it almost on terms with agility, because agility can get into a wing. If strength couldn't, then strength would probably be lower, honestly. But strength, I mean, the cons are that it's not really required for most gear at all. And you can have really good strength level. If you don't have a good attack level, there's virtually nothing you can really do with strength. So it's really hard to place into a correct position. It's more of a miscellaneous thing, honestly. Now, number 12 is Constitution, and this is another really difficult one I had to place. Now, where can you position the skill that is responsible for your survival? The main responsibility for your survival. It dictates how much health you have, how much damage you can take. I don't feel it's as important as things like defense or prayer or herbal. I think skills which prevent you from taking damage to HP are more important than HP itself. If you don't get hit by enemies, you won't need a high amount of hit points to begin with. Now, Constitution does have a lot of good abilities, which you can use to heal yourself, as well as, like, I guess the special attacks are linked in with Constitution, but we'll gloss over that. That's only 10 required. But some of the best skills in the game are linked with Constitution, and they're all healing. They're all for healing themselves, such as Catholic's Blessing, which is level 85, or Ice Asylum level 91. Honestly, I think these are too high level to be really considered that useful generally. Like, they're super useful at high level. And I mean, honestly, I'm going to be doing another video just on healing stuff alone. You'll see how useful they are over there. But as for HP, like Constitution skill being useful, it's all really high level stuff, so it's not going to be as useful for kind of low or mid level players. And I think that's really what holds the skill back. Number 11 is fishing. Now, this goes hand in hand with cooking, which is even higher on the list. Now, fishing only sort of impacts cooking, and that's its big disadvantage. But fishing is super important, because without fishing we would have virtually no food in the game. And food is so important for healing yourself. It's more important than having high hit points itself. It's being able to recover those hit points. Healing is really important in the game. And it's also why prayer is as high as it is. The upside to fishing is that it can make bank if you're high level. Rock towels sell for so much, and they're pretty AFK. Honestly, I don't see any disadvantages with fishing at all, to be honest. I mean, the only potential disadvantage is that it's really locked to only one other skill, and that's sort of cooking. But I honestly think cooking has enough impact in terms of healing for fishing to be a number 11 and not down with wood cutting or other gatherer skills such as that. Now we're getting to the top 10 now. At number 10 we have the attack skill. Now, attack is higher than strength because you need attack to wield most weapons. I mean, there are some which require strength as well, but honestly, if you don't have high attack, you can't wield any decent weapons, and as a result, your strength is going to be useless, seeing as you're not hitting at all. But I think I can't really put attack any higher because melee skills are at an inherent disadvantage because range and mage both have range on the opponents. So, I mean, it's a lot easier to keep them at a distance, not be hit by melee attacks, whereas melee will be hit by every attack style in the game. And I find you can't really have attack any higher as a result of that because it's locked on melee, but it is higher than strength because of the requirements to use certain weapons. And I sort of put combat as a little bit more of a high emphasis than fishing. I don't know. That's my personal opinion. Now, number 9 is probably half of the game community's favourite attack style. The other half is a bit higher up, and that is ranged, because ranged is superior to melee because it has range. It can do armadillo core, etc. I feel there are a lot more enemies in the game which are weak to some form of range attacks, and this is why I put it above attack. And honestly, I think there are more uses for range in terms of things like Slayer as a result of this. So I had to put it above attack, but I don't think it's more important than staying alive, which is why it's as low as number 9. Plus you can use grapples, etc., which no one actually uses, but still. At number 8 we have the cooking skill. Now, cooking will cook all your fish. It's linked to that one ability, fishing. But cooking can also make other things like ingredients for herblore, which is, you may notice, we've still yet to get to herblore. So it's useful for herblore. It's useful for making food, which is absolutely key to keeping your hit points higher. So, I mean, this comes in just after avoiding damage. So you want to avoid damage, but you also want to recover from damage. Now, granted, cooking doesn't really have many applications sort of outside combat. It doesn't help any other skills outside of combat, but there are a lot of combat skills, guys, and cooking helps all combat, because without cooked food, how would anyone recover hit points at low level? I mean, they don't have access to Guthix Blessing or Soul Split at low level, so cooking has to be this high, really. It's absolutely mandatory for the game. It's so useful. At number 7 we have defense. People might think, oh, boring. Well, yeah, we still had defense left to go, so that's why it's here. Defense is really, really important. The use of defense is, the higher your defense, the more hits will do no damage on you. It won't reduce the amount of damage you take per hit. It will reduce the amount of hits that actually do damage to you. So there'll be more 0 hits on you. And that is basically what I'm getting at with this. Defense is used in all 3 combat disciplines for the armor. And those armors give you so much bonus in terms of attack and defense. Particularly attack when it comes to God Wars armor. So defense is just really important for that reason, and that's why it's number 7. Number 6 on this list. Now, number 6 was really a very tight call between two skills, but I'm gonna have to give it to not Slayer, but Prayer. I'm gonna give it to Prayer, and the reason for this, obviously, I've got to mention first Soul Split, Protection Prayers, things like that. Prayer, if you're serious about combat and you want to fight bosses or high level monsters, Prayer is mandatory. You need really high Prayer, and in addition to this, Prayer is also one of the quickest skills to level in the game as well. However, one of the real downsides to this skill is it's also one of the most expensive skills in the game. I mean, at the moment in RS, I'm at level 73 Prayer. If I wanted Soul Split at level 92, it would cost me 54 million if I were to use Dragon Bones on Gilded Altars. And I mentioned Gilded Altars earlier for construction. This is what they're used for. Prayer. Pure and simple. Now, Prayer does not benefit any non-combat skill. And I think this is a real kind of flaw with Prayer. Next to this, you do need to unlock that second prayer book, which is the Ancient Curses, for it to really be that useful. And this means that a lot of the good prayer stuff is really high level. So thus for the more lower and medium levels, prayer isn't really as important, but the protection prayers on the standard spellbook are really good. But I really can't put it higher because it's got no applications in non-combat skills, and a lot of prayer is sort of locked into high level stuff. It's like you need it for high level stuff, but you need high level prayer for it to be useful. It's like you need level 92 prayer for Soul Split. That is ridiculous. But Soul Split is, honestly, my opinion, foreshadowing, the best healing force, the best source of healing in the entire game. Now, we only have 5 more skills to go. What I want to know, before I give them out, is I want people to write in the comments. I want to know your opinion. These 5 skills, I'm going to read them out in no order in particular. They are Dungeoneering, Magic, Herblore, Slayer, and Summoning. Like, put in the comments how you would order these 5 skills in terms of usefulness in the game. And I'm interested in other people's opinions because this is really subjective from me. But you know, I'm curious what people think are the most important skills in the game. I'm going to reveal mine now, anyway. So, without further ado, number 5 is Herblore, and this is the farming, the farming skill in its entirety helps Herblore. So, Herblore, why is Herblore so important? Why isn't Herblore important, more like? Herblore basically every level has important potions. Every single level bracket has really important potions. If it's prayer potions, if it's energy potions even, overloads, anti-fire potions, anti-poisons. Everything is useful in Herblore. Overloads are virtually mandatory for bossing in high level. Anti-fire potions are so important when fighting dragons because some dragons are weak to rain, some dragons are weak to to magic, if you have a DFS or an anti-fire shield, you're going to have a lot less damage. You increase your money making, and you increase your damage and surviving potential by having anti-fires, and those are super important. Now, I am going to mention the cons. But before that, I have also forgotten to mention Herblore benefits other skills. It benefits a lot of non-combat skills with potions that increase the level, potions that help farming, and basically all round kind of general quality of life stuff for other skills. Now, Herblore is notoriously expensive to train. You can do it rather cheaply, but it takes a while. If you want some of the highest XP rates in the entire game, which are off Herblore, it's one of the quickest skills in the game, it's gonna cost you quite a bit. But it is worth it, and although you can't sell overloads, the overloads you make to get to the level 99 are going to be so important in the future, because you don't have to make any more. It's going to be hard for you to use up those overloads, and high level Herblore is just, the benefits it gives to combat is just mind boggling. It can't make that much money because of her prices, but it gives you so many bonuses in more than just combat skills. So that is why it is in the top 5. And it's also why I really struggle to put it ahead of prayer. But honestly, Herblore benefits more skills than prayer does. So, what could possibly be number 4? So we've got Dungeoneering, Slayer, Summoning and Magic. Which of those 4 could it be? Honestly, I mean, all 4 of these skills are super important to the game, but I'm gonna have to say there is one that's slightly less important than the rest, and that is number 4, Slayer. Slayer is my favourite skill in the game, so I might be slightly biased putting it this high. I feel Slayer is important in that all the combat skills, it gives you better opponents to fight against. It gives you more XP rates. It gives you more like money making capabilities. Slayer makes absolute bank. It's one of the highest earning skills in the entire game if you keep doing it, and honestly it gives you a reason to do combat. In addition, it gives you like targets which have different combat disciplines as well, so you train all of your combat skills here, and some of the best monsters in the game for XP and for drops are locked behind Slayer requirements. I'm going to mention this now, spiritual mages, which I've been training mage on like from level 90 almost up to level 99. I've been making 3.5 mil an hour. I needed 83 Slayer before I could do that, and honestly it's worth the time. Slayer is so important. It doesn't benefit the game directly. It doesn't kind of improve your account in any sort of way, except allowing you to kill monsters which have better drops and better XP, but the bonus it gives to other combat skills is just insane, and it's almost immeasurable, and that is why it is number 4. So, number 3. Number 3, well, all the top 3. The top 3 were really hard to order, honestly. I mean, I asked my clan chat, and there were so many combinations of like the top 3 Some people thought, some people put magic first, some people put dungeoneering, some people put summoning first. It's really hard to pick between the three of them. But number 3 is dungeoneering. Now, people are going to be like, what? How can dungeoneering be only number 3 considering it trains every skill in the game? Now, I'm going to say this. Dungeoneering, yes, trains every skill in the game. And yes, it trains every skill in the game for free. But it does not provide that good XP rates for some of the skills. And okay, I'm going to say this now. C2 skills, which are complex C2 skills, they are some of the highest XP rates in the game. But, and this is the but, the other skills do not gain enough benefit from dungeoneering for me to put above the rest. It helps you train a lot of skills, and a lot of the good resource dungeons are locked behind a dungeoneering requirement, much to my dismay. But dungeoneering also has chaotics as well, which are like important for every combat discipline. But, and honestly, if it weren't for summoning and magic being like so much better, honestly, dungeoneering would be number 1. But I think there are some things in magic and summoning which just give it the edge. Now, let's see who agrees with me that I mean, it's going to be a process of elimination. You're going to guess number 1 from this. So I'm going to say the second most useful skill in the game is summoning, in my opinion. Now, when summoning was first released, it was met with a heck of a lot of backlash. Like, some people didn't like what it did to the combat level, some people didn't like the fact they had to train another skill, some people didn't like the way charms worked. Now, summoning can be a really long skill to train. It's got some of the biggest XP rates per hour in the game, but it takes really long because you have to collect the charms for it, which are non-tradable. But there is a familiar with summoning for virtually every single skill in the game, which provides some sort of bonus. In addition to this, now this is why it's so high on the list, Beast of Burden. They provide extra bag slots, which are essential for some bosses because they carry extra food, essential for some skilling, carries extra materials, etc, etc. This makes summoning really, really important. You can use summoning to boost things like skills that you need for quests. You can use summoning to boost those because there are some familiars that you can use to boost those. You can use summoning as your protection from Zamorak and Saradomin minions in God Wars Dungeon, and that's super funny that you can use that. So I have to put summoning as number 2 because it benefits almost every skill in the game, as does dungeoneering, but summoning can be used to help you kill monsters as well. And Beast of Burden is just, I think Beast of Burden is worth more than what dungeoneering provides. So, and summoning is not like prayer, where prayer has soul split at level 92. Summoning has Pakiax at level 96. Before that it has War Tortoises. Before that, Spirit Terrorburst. Before that, Fire Ants. There are a lot of Beast of Burdens at different levels, so you don't even need a high level of summoning. to get the full benefit out of it. And now, number one, you guys know this. Magic, there is no way magic isn't top. So I'm actually going to go through the cons first. And honestly, one of the major cons for me for magic is the fact that teleports aren't as useful since lodestones. But I'm going to directly counter that straight away by saying the ancient spellbook has some of the best teleports in the game to places which do not have lodestones. And honestly, it's a pain that you don't have lodestones, but magic just benefits so much more. Now, what I feel magic lacks is a way to switch between the spellbooks easily without just teleporting to places and running to the temple in the desert for ancients. But with magic, you've got the ancient magics, which are they are super good with like the proc effects of the spells. They have really good teleports. Got the standard spellbook, which is a mix between combat and utility. You've got the lunar spellbook, which is sort of like a fun spellbook, but it's got so many uses for other skills as well. And of course, high alchemy is one of the most important things in the game. It's one of the things that basically dictates the grand exchange prices. And I can tell you, without high alchemy, some prices of some items would just be astronomical or astronomically low. The market would be completely different. Different skills would give different amounts of money, honestly, without high alchemy. Then you've got superheat items, which provides you with extra smithing XP, and you don't even need a forge. And superheating rune makes so much money, as well as any kind of combat in the game makes a lot of money. And the fact that magic has so much utility and so much benefit for other skills, and then on top of that it is a combat skill. You can use it in combat, and it's not even like melee, which there's not many things that are weak to melee. There are a lot of things weak to magic, a lot of things weak to different kinds of spells as well, and you just have so much versatility of magic. Plus, I might be slightly biased because it's my first 99, but I honestly, with my first 99, I feel I have got it in the best skill to get a first 99 in, because it's got so many useful applications everywhere in the game. So that is my list, guys. Thank you for sitting through that rather long video. That is a really long video. So yeah, thank you for seeing through that. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm interested. I want to see in the comments, like, what would you place sort of higher, maybe lower? Like, what kind of difference would you make? I mean, I did ask my chat, and we did have some sort of debate on some skills. Like, some people wanted to put Herblore a little higher. Some people thought Prayer should have been in the top 3. Some people thought, well, Slayer can't be useful without combat, so the combat skill should be much higher. So yeah, I mean, and then there was an entire debate on, well, how much use is Hunter and rune crafting. So yeah, and I think number 14, agility, is going to be unpopular because shortcuts, but you know, this is my list. I can't help but being biased. I have taken input into account, but I'd like to see what other people feel are the most useful skills. So drop a comment if you like this video. Like it. Let's aim for 10 likes, and check out my other videos, because you might find stuff you like there. And subscribe if you do. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys later.